There is one stock that is about to skyrocket, in my opinion. It had a partnership with Novo Nordisk, the massive pharmaceutical company. It had a challenge with Novo Nordisk, who put out a statement that their drug was incorrectly basically described, and that's pretty dangerous when you're a smaller company like HIMS is. That's the ticker, HIMS. The stock cratered, and since then it has bounced all the way back, looking like it's about to break out. So not financial advice, but this company looks ready to go. So let's jump into not only the chart, but also a little bit about that relationship with, it's basically an Eli Lilly, Pfizer type company, Novo Nordisk, that is a huge, huge contributor to HIM's success so far.
This is Sam Putnam.
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 So here's the chart, and if we just connect some lines here, okay, we have a line way up here. You could start to mess around with lines, but I don't really do that, right? You have a line here, you could start to mess around with lines. The better way to look at it is just to say, let's just go on a weekly chart, okay? What does it look like is happening here? It looks like this thing is getting tighter and it is going to break out. Is it going to happen over here? Or is it going to happen right now? It doesn't really matter to us, because all we have to say is, can we risk $1 or so and make 10? That's the name of the game. This is the daily chart. Can you risk $1, pick a line, and make 10? You definitely can. So that's the argument for HIMS on the chart. We'll get back to it because this chart actually tells a story. This is a horrible, horrible gap down. So there's danger in buying biotechs, but we'll talk about that. So what does HIMS do for people who are like, I don't want to look at charts, I want you to tell me why to buy it? Fine. They do digital healthcare. You've probably seen their ads for weight loss, men's health. That's sort of a euphemism, right? Kind of like Viagra. They do GLP-1, so they're right in the center of this massive trend. And testosterone, which is also big. They do have some issues, okay, you could say. And the problem is that this is the drug that Novo Nordisk got a little aggressive with them and made that big drop that we see here. It's called Wegovy. And when that news came out, you can see this looked pretty great, right? This is actually a great broader lesson, is if you try to buy a stock when it hasn't broken out yet, sure, and you can see I did try to buy it here. You can get a great entry, but if you get it before it breaks out, which is up here, well, it could also chop around, and talk about chopping around. Now, if it had already broken out, would Novo Nordisk have released this news? They might have. It might have not been related to where it was in the price chart. But anyway, talk about a way to learn a lesson. Whether that lesson is buying in a range, like I was describing, how it hadn't broken out, or whether that lesson was buying a biotech and realizing that, hey, this thing could drop 30% or whatever this is overnight. Pretty gnarly. So you have to be careful position sizing with biotechs, but they also have some absurdly large moves, like we recently saw with this QURE, Huntington's disease. Possible major step towards a cure. Even after this thing gapped up, and I'll talk about this more, it went another 40%. So there are opportunities in biotechs as long as you're careful with position sizing. So that's what happened. Wegovy they got a notice. Well, we all got a notice. Novo Nordisk released a piece of news, press release, saying that they don't necessarily support how HIMS was talking about Wegovy, which is the medication that they developed, collaborated with HIMS on. So the HIMS medications are not FDA approved. So how HIMS talks about those is pretty important, the language they used, and the FDA was not happy, and Novo Nordisk was not happy with how they were talking about this Novo Nordisk partnered sort of medication. I don't even know whether to call it a medication or a drug or not, but you don't have to be a biotech expert to know that stock is in a good spot to break out. And the fact that HIMS has bounced back just shows how resilient they are. They did put out a letter that was pretty slightly ambiguous, but overall was optimistic in terms of their future opportunity despite these major stock declines. The CEO basically knows how to do PR, I'll say that. So this is what I'm talking about, the 30% drop after Novo Nordisk terminates partnership. I don't know how to talk here. That's the drop in June. And this is what we were saying. It's Novo Nordisk's weight loss drug, Wegovy. It's not HIMS. And Novo Nordisk wasn't happy about how they promoted it. So they ended the collaboration, and that word ended was pretty harmful. And 30% is basically shows how much the company was propped up by Novo Nordisk. And could I keep talking about these? I could. I don't know how much you want to hear about them. What you probably want to know is, where do I buy it, right? So there's a line going back here to 55, which sort of got hit here as well. So it's at 59 right now. And you could risk 55, but you could also risk $1, which is what I kind of like to say as a good risk. Just keeps it simple, right? Risk $1, make 10 or more. And really, as I've tried to make more clear, I don't know how clear I've been about this in the past, what you really want to be doing is, see how there's a 3-day burst here? It's actually very clear in this stock. This one is actually a few more days, but it's 3 big days. Like here's 3 days, just about 10% move, and then it pulls back, right? 3 more days, 10, 15% move, pull back, 3 more days. So it could pull back here. That's why I'm saying you could buy here or you could buy down here. You know, you don't necessarily want to buy right up here immediately, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. This video is not like, you know, down to the day or down to the 12 hours. This is when you should buy it. There are instances where that's more obvious. Maybe with Tesla, you could say, you know, when this tight day or this tight day happened, down to the next 12 hours, you're like, you got to get in this thing, because if this thing's going to go, you know, it's going to go. But this is one of the more visible flags. Most companies don't flag that way because they're not as memey. Like, not everyone's eyes are on it. So HIMS is more in that category where, you know, it might go here, it might go here, it might go here, you know, could undercut and you might get chopped out. I'm just being honest with you. This is how swing trading works. You get chopped out, you know, 4, 5, 6 times, maybe 7 times. And then one of these stocks that you get in, whether it's HIMS, whether it's PDD, the one I just talked about, you get in and, you know, it doesn't go down. It goes maybe just sideways or it goes up. And then you don't have to worry about your position. You don't have to look at your phone. You don't have to look at your computer. It can even go down a little bit. Suddenly you're up 10%. You know, you're up 10%. Well, it's actually 5%, but, you know, you hold, maybe you're up 8, 9%. You sell half. Maybe it goes down some more. and then it just rockets, and you've paid for all of those 7 losses on 7 other swing trades. Sorry, I just really don't want all these lines on my chart, but I think they were somewhat instructive, at least. That's kind of the name of the game, and the only reason I draw it out like that is because it's just more honest than saying that every single stock that you watch a video of on YouTube that the YouTuber says is about to break out, in his opinion, talking in the third person now, is going to break out, okay? So that's the levels, 58 and 55. That's kind of what can happen. And don't get me wrong, I've looked at a lot of companies to come up with this sort of list here that we have going on here. There's other names that, you know, ALB is another name that might pull back more. You can see it's more extended, just as an example before it goes. But there's a lot of companies that don't look like HIMS, that don't look like ALB, that, you know, I wouldn't even talk about getting. You don't want to get in Google right now. You don't want to get in Broadcom, right? That looks horrible. You don't want to get in GE because it moves 2% a day, right? You don't want to get in IBM. You don't want to get in Uber and Shopify are okay, but there are definitely a lot of companies, Qualcomm, like, I don't know, what are you going to buy this off of this line and watch your phone the next day? So I have put a lot of care into saying, you know, a lot of these companies are not worth looking at. This one is worth looking at. And all that to say, back to people who like to hear about the news, did fall 8% before that 30% drop. There was some sort of, you know, this is not really stuff that typically a business would talk about unless you're, you know, that's sort of your personality, or your Elon or whoever. You talk about any topic, but even Elon stays away from most sort of difficult topics. Here's another drop. This is on actually resolving the shortage and Novo's and HIMS partnered medication, which dropped their stock because they're selling these. So, you know, the whole supply demand thing. And then, yeah, we've talked about this. This is sort of FTC, FDA related. But they're back, you know. This is in April, so that was the collaboration. In June, there was some reasons to end it. And this is the response. I talked about the CEO actually striking back a little bit and, you know, being the voice of the people in it as well as he could. So all of that tended to make HIMS turn up in a good way. These sort of regulatory issues seem to be simmering down. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. This whole shortage of semaglutide, which is Ozempic, doesn't seem to be mattering for HIMS, although it complicated their position in the market, right? Because they were selling a GLP-1 drug. Fine. All we really need to know is that things are fine. They're not exactly partners as they were, but somehow there's a lot of buying in this stock. We tried to break out once. This bounce was insane. This bounce back was not entirely unexpected. I know people were shorting down here. Didn't quite make it. Earnings was poor. Okay. But still, this stock just can't die. And so when you see a stock get hammered with news like its earnings was hammered with a ceasing of a partnership with a huge pharmaceutical company, and it just still holds up there, and the weekly chart looks like a massive flag, that's the argument for HIMS. We talked about places to get in, and I'm not, you know, haven't talked with the CEO, but whatever the heck he's doing, and, his statement here about being basically the voice of the people, it seems to be enough. It certainly was well received by people on X, which seems like kind of a joke to say that aloud, but there are a lot of investors of all sizes on that platform. So it's very free speechy, but you can't lie. This chart looks great. So I'll shut up now. Talked about the entries, talked about the lines 58, 55, and you can see the volume sort of trailing off, which is actually a sign that it's bullish, given that if there were a lot of volume, it would indicate a lot of selling, like right here. Well, this is actually a green candle, so it's a bad example, but see all the selling here. This is obviously not buying because it went down. So as the volume trails off, indicates, yeah, maybe not a lot of people are buying, but there's definitely not very many people selling. So it's sort of a price agreement, at which point the price has to choose a direction, and it's more likely going to go up because there's higher lows here. So if you like these sort of stock ideas coupled with some charts to say, what is the price actually telling us, along with what is this company, what are the risks, what is the CEO saying that's helping calm the risks, head over to stockcommunity.com, stocks community with an S. Try it out for $25 for 7 days. Hop in there, and you'll actually see some folks in there. There are some testimonials already. You can see that right there and right here. If you want to pause the video and take a look at that. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, I will see you in the next one, if you hit it.
This is Sam Putnam.
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 This is Sam Putnam.